the Nets this season for ESPN. And Malika, you heard the cliffhanger heading into this season, the long-awaited debut of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the court together. You just heard Zach Lowe say 90%. What are your expectations for year one of the KD and Kyrie show?
I mean, they're high because this organization's expectations of themselves are high, Rachel. We hear these guys talk about, well, we don't want to put too much pressure on ourselves. Well, we don't want to say we're all coming back and we're out here to win it and take over the East. But at the same time, when I talk to folks around that team, they say they know. They know what they're going for. They know that not making an Eastern Conference Finals appearance, as high as those standards may be, that is already what's expected of them, and it's what they're expecting of themselves. So, yeah, I expect that of them.
So my thing is, everybody has expectations for this team. I think when you really break it down, if you were to compare it to Clippers, you have all of this new talent coming together, and they have all of the ability. They have a great bench. They have a great staff. I actually love the staff that Steve Kerr has brought in, right? He's brought in other players. Steve Nash. He's brought in other players. He brought in D'Antoni. So he's got a great staff there to help him navigate the first-year coaching. But I think this is kind of like the Clippers, where it's like they need to develop their chemistry, and it's not like championship or bust. I think the Clippers put too much pressure on themselves, and I think when they failed, that pressure fell on them too. Right. So I think the Nets are just going to take it easy. I don't think they have to win a championship for this year to be successful.
Well, when you add arguably the best player in the league to your roster, it's always going to be championship or bust. Now, if Kevin Durant can play at an MVP level, top 5, top 3, then this team has a chance to get into the finals. These are the expectations that come with a superstar like Kevin Durant. And then you have Kyrie Irving in his own right. He's a superstar who's won a championship. That's always how it's going to be. LeBron goes somewhere, KD goes somewhere. Expectations are championship.
Well, speaking of Kyrie, all eyes are going to be on him tonight because it's just preseason, but it's his first game back in Boston. Remember, he didn't play when the Nets visited there last year. So, Malika, is there any bad blood left on the Celtics side after Kyrie's free agency departure a couple seasons ago?
Well, when you ask them, they're going to say no, and they've done pretty well in their own right as Kyrie has departed, right? It's not like they've fallen off a cliff. So I think the Celtics are happy with where they're at. Brad Stevens has said repeatedly that he's happy with the way, things ended with Kyrie, with him moving on. I think it's Celtics fans, right, that are still kind of hanging on to that a little bit, and potentially rightfully so, right? Kyrie Irving sat in front of them and said that he intended to re-sign, and then that didn't happen. That's the business of basketball. But I was at that game in Boston last year, Rach, when Kyrie Irving did not play. And when I walked around the outside of TD Garden, there were literally posters of his face with the word coward printed over it. So I don't think this game tonight, even though it is just the preseason, is going to carry the same weight that it would have had there been fans in the building. I truly believe that if there were those folks there, they would let Kyrie know how they feel about not having him on the team anymore, and then about having him not have played last season. He was injured. He was dealing with that shoulder injury. But to the fans, that still stings a little bit. And there's a reason why this game is on Christmas Day, is also Boston Nets. It's because the league knows there's a little something there.
I don't know, Paul. Do Celtics fans have long memories?
We hold grudges. We definitely hold grudges. And he would have got it. He would have got lit up if the fans were out there. And listen, this is going to continue every year until his career is over. Every time he comes to the Garden, if there's fans in there.
Paul still doesn't like me for the first 2 years of my career. What we did to Boston.
That's just good taste.
I was going to say, I don't think it's just because of that he doesn't like it, Richard.
That's what I'm going to say.
Let's get to the plot twist for the Nets this offseason. The rumors of James Harden coming to Brooklyn to join KD and Kyrie. So, Richard, how do you think those rumors impact the Nets heading into the regular season, especially the guys on the roster who know if James Harden did come there, they would probably be the ones shipped out?
Well, I had a conversation via the Nets with Sean Marks, and Sean Marks was saying, hey, I've had open conversations with all of our players. So they know if they need to sit down. And it's look, there's certain times where you can tell players that, look, I've had no conversation about this. They understand that James Harden is one of the most popular players and one of the best players in the league. So, these guys know. Spencer Dinwiddie, if he's sitting in an office, he's if James Harden is going to come here, I get it. I understand. But it all is about conversation. And And I think the Nets have had a great conversation with their players to let them know, like, hey, right now, this is our team and this is what we're moving forward with. I don't think that there's that much stress because players know about kind of the lifestyle that we've signed up for.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that they think they can win a championship with the roster on hand right now without James Harden. Yeah. Yes, you add a James Harden. It does enhance your chances to win. But look, like I said, KD. You got KD. That's champion. Kyrie. Karis LeVert. I mean, he's one of the most underrated players in my eyes in the league. A guy who can carry an offense. Dinwiddie. They got pieces here.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not messing with
Landry
this because
Shamet,
think about this.
Joe Harris.
When you get a veteran like James Harden, you can kind of bump heads. KD and Kyrie, these guys are going to fall in line. They're going to play the role they ask you to play, and they're going to play it to the best of their ability because they respect these guys. And that's what you need in trying to build a championship team.
Well, and day in and day out, I do not expect this to be be a distraction for the Nets. We've asked different players from Kyrie to Kevin Durant to Karis LeVert to Spencer Dinwiddie to Jared Allen. The latter three, their names have all been involved in potential packages if that were to come to fruition. And all of them have said, look, James Harden is not in our practice today. He is not distracting us. In fact, maybe look at the Rockets and see what's happening over there. That may be more of a distraction for his teammates right now. And like Richard said, I hate to echo Richard, but Sean Marks does have that open door policy. I know it's really hard for me, but Sean Marks does have that open door policy. And he says that that's how he's working through this with his players. And it does seem like the Nets have, from everyone that I've talked to within that organization, there is no trade for James Harden that is imminent. They had some discussions. They were brief. They did not go very far. And Sean Marks being honest with his players and saying, hey, that's what happened. And now we're moving forward. We like this group. They have to believe what's done is done. And right now, what's being done is not James Harden imminently coming to the Brooklyn Nets.
All right, well, let's look at the games that Nets fans should binge watch this season. Brooklyn hosting Golden State on opening night. They face Boston on Christmas, as we were just discussing. And they see the Bucks for the first time on January 18th. Malika, I know you will be covering a bunch of those games, either in person or remotely, depending on how the NBA opens up here over the coming months. But we appreciate your time, and we will come back to you often about the KD and Kyrie show. Come spice to it this year, guys. 81% of the GMs picked the Lakers to win the title again, which is not an unusual pick, but it's interesting that only the 2018 and 2019 Warriors had more consensus than that. It is a window into how dominant other teams consider the Lakers right now. The GMs also picked Giannis to be the MVP, which trends against, actually, what most media surveys have said. James Harden beat out LeBron for, quote, player who forces opposing coaches to make the most adjustments. Chris Paul won out over Drew Holiday as the player switching teams who would have the biggest impact. And Miami's Eric Spoelstra named the NBA's best coach over Greg Popovich and Nick Nurse. And then this is interesting. The GMs still consider Steph Curry the best point guard in the NBA, but by a lot less. He only got 30% of the vote this year compared to 90% of the vote the year before. Damian Lillard finished second to him this year. Paul, if you had to pick one guy, you cannot hedge here. You have to vote for one guy like the GMs did. Who will you pick?
Originally, I said Luka Doncic, but if LeBron's the best player and he played point guard, how is he not the best point guard in the league? He led the league in assists. I mean,
won the finals.
I forgot LeBron just went to point guard, by the way, and he's clearly the best point guard in the league.
Okay, this survey is skewed here. Let me just first say this.
What do you mean skewed?
It's skewed is in the sense of, like, you just can't just add the best player in the game, the finals MVP that led the league in assists, like, and then say he's 11%. So, like, are they considering him a real point guard, or they're just saying?
I mean,
that doesn't even make sense.
He was available in the point guard spot for the All-Star game and All-NBA this year.
But if he's the best player on this list, but they're talking about when he plays, this is stupid.
He's the fifth point.
This is stupid. This is dumb.
Hey, this is like the year Bill Russell won MVP and wasn't even in the first team All-NBA.
Oh, yeah, that's the type of stuff. Like, wait, this is not a LeBron James, like, this is not, we're not, like, talking about that. We're just like, it doesn't make sense.
I get it.
Like, Steph Curry, and I said it on the broadcast, like, Steph Curry has to reclaim his title as the best point guard. Like, when LeBron James got hurt and Kawhi.
You just want Warriors fans.
No, they hate me anyway, so who gives a damn? But this is what I'm saying. When Bron got hurt, And Kawhi won the championship and won the Finals MVP. They were like, Kawhi's the best player on the planet. Giannis just won the MVP. Bron is probably the third or fourth. You have to show up every single year. Now, he might be the greatest shooter ever, right? Like, he will go down as that, but you have to reclaim your title every single year.
Yeah.
And Dame Lillard did some things last year from that point guard spot.
This is just like boxing. When you don't fight for a year, you get stripped of your title, and you got to go back and fight for it again.
Thank you.
It's the same difference. Now, we know how amazing Steph Curry is, Dame Lillard, they're amazing, but you got to reclaim that. Dame Lillard has some phenomenal games. But if LeBron is a point guard, he has to be the best point guard.
Yeah, led the league in assists. Oh, whatever. Who cares?
DM survey, always fun. Up next, we take an in-depth look at the Brooklyn Nets' upcoming season. How high should our expectations be?